What's up, buddy?
Another one of these. Yeah. Another Bulletproof. This one come out of Washington for us. He drove down here for me to do this, and he got a rental, and now he took a road trip across country. So he'll be back Friday-ish. I think Friday. And we got to have her done by Friday. So, yeah.
So real quick, a lot of people keep asking about 2025s, right? And if you have a bulletproof plan for a 2025 truck.
All right, so the short answer to that is no. We haven't had enough of them come in with significant amount of miles to see what's failing on the engine. Remember, my Bulletproof program is based off of the engine. It's not based off of anything else. Now, there's a couple things we could add onto the 68 RFEs in previous years, you know, get the baby maker valve body in there, stuff like that. All of the Eisens and 68s, yes, we include the ATS thermal bypass as part of the bulletproofing program because it needs to in order to help that along. However, there is nothing yet for the power line. There is nothing yet for the 6th gen Cummins. We haven't had enough of them in for me to find what is failing on these motors. So until we get enough of them with significant amount of miles to find out where the wear patterns and wear spots are, then I can't develop a bulletproofing plan for it. And even if we did find something right now that was really common on them, there is nothing aftermarket out there for them yet. So that's, time will tell on that one, and we just need more time.
Yeah.
That's all.
How about you just do a quick rundown of what, because I mean everyone's a little different. Not everybody wants to spend, you know, the whole kit and caboodle right now.
They don't want to dump the whole enchilada on it.
But what happens when you try to piece this together versus...
Okay. So this guy is doing everything except for the turbo. But we're going to be up there around the 30, 35 hour range, right? If we were doing the turbo, it adds another 3 hours. So on a good rule of thumb, to do the whole enchilada, there's a couple other smaller things that he's not doing. He's not doing the EGR cooler, stuff like that. So we're going to be closer to 40 hours on the full enchilada. Now, just to do the basic cam and lifter swap, we start at 19.5. They say, why do we start at 19.5? Well, side steps, they have to come off in order to lift the truck. It takes time to remove the side steps and then reinstall them. If you have aftermarket bumpers on there, again, it takes more time to get those bumpers off. If you have aftermarket lighting up front, again, it takes more time. So the more aftermarket accessories that are on the truck, the longer it's going to take to do it. So we start at 19.5 just to do the cam and lifter swap. However, I don't recommend just doing that because we're in there. When we're at this point right here, to change that water pump and put the Bulletproof diesel water pump on, which we are doing on this one, I throw it in for free because it's 2 bolts. Coolant's already drained. So there's really 5 minutes of time for me to change out that water pump. So I throw that in for free.
Where's that water pump at so they can see it? I know that.
Over here in the Bulletproof diesel box.
Let's see what it looks like.
Bulletproof diesel water pumps are probably the best. Well, not probably. They, in my opinion, are the best. Oh, this one came with it. Good. Here's a surprise for you guys. So along with the water pump, one of the other high failure points on these Cummins engines is this plastic fitting right here. This plastic fitting goes to the heater hose. That one hanging out right there on top. Okay? There's a lot of other companies out there that have redesigned the apple or wheel or whatever, and they make a whole new hose to go on there. And they cost, you know, 60, 70 bucks for the hose or whatever the cost is. It's not the hose's fault that we have a problem with this. It's this plastic fitting right here. So Bulletproof Diesel also has,
oh wow,
an aluminum fitting to go in its place. So this one's going to get the aluminum fitting as well. And then the moment of truth. There she is.
Wow.
All right, let's talk about this thing. Now, the factory water pumps have a hard time pushing coolant all the way to the back of the engine. And that's why we also recommend the fleece coolant bypass. Because it takes the hot coolant from the back of the engine and brings it back up around the front so cool coolant can get to the back. Now let's talk about the ability to push that coolant. The pulley size on this one is about 6 millimeters smaller than a factory one, and therefore it overdrives the pump so that it can push the coolant with more volume. The bearings inside of it are 30% larger than factory, and it's a billet shaft and it's a billet body that's 30% larger in diameter than the factory one. Plus, we have machined billet aluminum impellers, whereas the factory one is plastic, and I'll show you that real quick. Let me find my tool. We've got too much stuff going on right now. Plastic.
Wow.
Plastic and junk. I don't know how many of these.
We got to show them side by side. I want them to see this.
I don't know how many of these things I have replaced. Cummins has gone through a couple different models. They've had a recall on them where we had a T51 recall on the water pumps where we would just replace them. So we're going to get this POS out of here. Throw it right there in the trash. And then we'll get the new one put in. Now, some people don't like doing this. I do because it helps with keeping the O-ring in place. You never want that O-ring to get out of whack when you're going back together with this.
So when the cab is off.
When the cab is off, this goes in for free.
Yep.
When the cab is on, you're going to get an additional charge for it.
I mean, this is the third cab I've fixed in what, 2 days, right?
Yeah.
It's only Tuesday, by the way. This is the third truck.
It's not the third Bulletproof I've done.
Yeah.
We have a couple other things we're doing on 2 other trucks, and I had the cabs off of them really quick, but I'm getting these cabs off in an hour and a half now.
Yeah.
That's not busting butt on it, that's just working, getting it done.
There it is, that's it.
Yeah.
It's done.
That's how long it takes to do it right now. The cab on, 3.2 hours is what you're going to get charged for that.
Wow.
Alright, so while we're at this point, we're also going to talk about why we replace these with the Banks Monster Ram. Everybody has heard about that nut right there, where you can do the wiggle test, and if this is loose, then you need to replace it. Hopefully that nut hasn't fallen off and going through the engine and killed cylinder 5 or cylinder 6. What a lot of people don't talk about is this one right here. You can't see it from the top, you can't wiggle test it or nothing, but it has the same probability of failing as that one does. So let's talk really quick about why those fail. So on this truck, there's a recall for the relay that controls the intake air heater, right? On the older trucks, they were a more conventional style relay. What would happen after time in those relays connecting and disconnecting, it creates buildup, the calcium buildup on top of the contact points, and sometimes they would stick, and they would stick in the on position. That's when we start seeing the failure rate on those, is because the relay has stuck and caused that bolt to overheat. And we got to remember, that's an 80 amp circuit. 80 amps flowing through that is quite a bit. The PCM's trying to tell it to shut off, but it can't shut off because it's physically stuck. So that's where we end up with those melted off and going into the engine and all that. So whenever you're doing a Monster Ram, it is always a good idea to replace your relay as well. A lot of people don't talk about that as well. The solid state relays, as long as you have the new recall part, it's okay. Pre-recall, you want to get that relay out, get your truck into the dealer and get the relay replaced on the recall. Even if it's deleted, they still have to replace that relay under the recall. If you have the older style that has the conventional style relay, just as a preventative maintenance, whenever you put a Monster Ram on, change the relay. Save yourself an issue with even the air heater for the Banks Monster Ram. You can only heat them up to glowing red for so long before parts start failing. So replace that relay. Now, we'll talk about the Monster Ram and why it is the best on the market. There are companies out there now that have totally duplicated this, except they are using a sand casting method to manufacture it, whereas the Banks uses a different method. It's not sand casting, it's what the heck is going on over here? So Banks uses a die cast method for casting these, which makes the internal surfaces just smooth as a baby's butt. Whereas the other company that are duplicating this use a sand cast method, and the insides of them are, you know, about the same as like a 40 or 60 grit sandpaper. They're very rough, and what they cause is a lot of air turbulence through that as your engine's running and trying to breathe. We want to keep all those surfaces inside as smooth as possible. The Banks Monster Ram is the best one on the market. Not in my opinion, just flat out knowledge. It's the best on the market. Now I want to talk about some of the other companies too that are coming out with a bus kit that fixes this without removing this whole thing, where they do a different bus bar in here, different fasteners to hold it in. Those companies have gone through, I think, 4 redesigns now trying to fix a problem that they haven't been able to fix. But the more important part is that's the only surface area that you're allowed to breathe through with one of these in place. You see how narrow it is from here to here, right? The opening on the Banks Monster Ram is from here to here, not here to here. So you're restricting your engine's ability to breathe just by the factory design alone. So that's why I don't like going with those other kits that supposedly take care of that problem, because not only does it not totally take care of the problem or provide you an improvement, but if you look at the bus bars on them, they're that wide, not that wide like the factory. So not only are you being pinched down by the narrow opening of that air grid heater, but then you're taking up more space with that other bus bar. Banks Monster Ram is the #1 way to go. Alright, so we're going to end this off by talking about the 2025 models and the soon to be coming up to 2026s. We haven't seen enough of them come in with significant amount of miles on them to where we can start identifying the failure points in the engine. That right there alone is what the bulletproofing program is built off of, is finding those potential spots that fail and replacing them with parts. So the other side of that is the aftermarket industry has not started producing any of those parts. So for right now, there is no bulletproofing program for 25 or 26. Until we start seeing all those, we're kind of stuck.